Hello, my name is Trevor, and this is my review of Being the Ricardos. Being the Ricardos is a muddled mess of a film from Aaron Sorkin in his third directorial effort. And after seeing all of his directorial films, I think it's safe to say that he should probably just stick to writing. Aaron Sorkin writes and directs the film starring Nicole Kidman as Lucille Ball and Javier Bardem as Desi Arnaz. Nina Arianda and J.K. Simmons have supporting roles in the film, and they're both about average. Kidman isn't great. Her performance felt very forced and her accent work is pretty terrible. Bardem gives a decent performance, but it's kind of ruined by a poorly structured character arc. The plot of Being the Ricardos is as follows. In 1952, Hollywood power couple Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz face personal and professional obstacles that threaten their careers, their relationship, and their hit television show. I can't lie and say that Being the Ricardos was not an entertaining film. Sorkin's dialogue is incredibly immersive and snappy and keeps the usual beat of his films, as always. But the structure of this film was all over the place. We kept cutting back and forth between the week of the news that Lucy was a communist and the time when Lucy and Desi first met in like their first year or so together. So we have these two dueling storylines. And that can be fun, especially in the hands of Aaron Sorkin. We saw him do lots of cutting back and forth in Trial of the Chicago 7. And while the film wasn't great as a whole, he used flashbacks pretty effectively. But the two storylines have absolutely nothing to do with each other. The only connection is that they both feature Lucy and Desi. Flashbacks can be an incredibly powerful thing in films. Flashbacks can teach us a lot about a character so we can better understand their motivations in the present day storyline. But in Being the Ricardos, Sorkin has just written two stories about Lucy and Desi almost entirely independent of one another. And because the two stories don't get the full runtime, neither of them feel fleshed out. They couldn't bounce off of each other or have time to breathe. Both stories just kind of sit there, doing very little to nothing in their own separate bubbles. Overall, I think Being the Ricardos has a lot of problems. No performance is anything special. Kidman is written really well, but she's pretty mediocre to bad. She never really becomes Lucy, and as I mentioned, her accent game is incredibly off point. Bardem is pretty decent, but his character is written poorly, and none of the supporting cast is given enough to do to leave a mark. It's entertaining enough while you're watching it, but it's incredibly forgettable by the end due to a very, very undercooked plot. Alright, awards talk time. Not a lot to talk about with this one. So it was almost completely ignored from the shortlist, barring a score nomination. And I don't even remember this movie having a score, so I don't see that one happening. People have talked about production design, but we have a pretty safe top 5. Dune, West Side Story, Nightmare Alley, maybe Belfast could sneak in there, but as a whole, we have a safe top 5, and I don't really see anything breaking into that. It would be very strange if Being the Ricardos got in. Original score. This can probably happen. This category is pretty weak this year. You have Belfast and Licorice Pizza, and then probably Don't Look Up. After that, this is probably the number 4, and then who knows what else gets in. It could be Come On, Come On. It could be a lot of different things. The French Dispatch, Mass, a foreign film, potentially The Worst Person in the World. There's a lot of places this could go because the category is very, very open. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this in. It's Sorkin too. I personally wouldn't like to see it get in because even if the dialogue is fun, we've seen Sorkin do that before, and he only regressed as far as his structuring skills. So wouldn't personally like to see this happen, but likely it will just because of the lack of competition. Supporting actor for J.K. Simmons, he got the Golden Globe nomination, I think. I don't see this happening, but who knows, because Bradley Cooper isn't happening anymore for Licorice Pizza. I think that Cody Smith-McPhee, Kieran Hines, and Troy Coates are locks at this point. Jamie Dornan is almost a lock, but if they snub Jamie Dornan and they just hate House of Gucci and Jared Leto doesn't get in, maybe J.K. Simmons could get in, but like also the Golden Globes nominated Ben Affleck for The Tender Bar, so I'm not too concerned with what the Golden Globes did. There was a couple of filler picks there, like Mahershala Ali in Swan Song, who's great in Swan Song. I don't see him happening for lead actor, so I'll mention it because it could happen. Don't think it's very strong though. Same thing with Javier Bardem. Actor is very full. Like, that's even more full than supporting actor. I don't see a world in which he gets in. Like, I think even Nicolas Cage is above Javier Bardem. I mean, you have Dinklage, you have Denzel, and then you have the four locks, Garfield, Smith, and Cumberbatch. I mean, you could even have Bradley Cooper in before Javier Bardem. Leonardo DiCaprio is probably in before Javier Bardem. He's very far down the list, but he's got nominated, so I'll mention him. Nicole Kidman is probably this movie's strongest chance at an acting nomination, and I think she's right on the bubble to get in, because we have Kristen Stewart, who's a lock. I think it's pretty safe to say Jessica Chastain feels very, very strong right now. Like, people keep on saying that she's going to die out. I don't see it happening. I don't see it. Then, like, Olivia Colman's probably pretty safely in there. You'd have to imagine that she's pretty safe in there. So I don't know. Those last couple spots are going to get tricky, because Lady Gaga is probably in. Probably. But again, it depends on how much they like House of Gucci. If they don't like House of Gucci, then, like, I could see it getting snubbed everywhere. It isn't a movie where, like, it really has to get in anywhere except makeup and hair. A lot of it comes down to what you thought of the film, and reactions were very polarized. So if the Academy falls on the side of not liking it, Lady Gaga might not happen. Kind of similar thing with Ricardos. It wasn't as polarized as House of Gucci, but it was fairly polarizing. And then you have Alana Haim in Licorice Pizza, a bit of an underdog, but she could sneak in, as could Rachel Zegler in West Side Story, especially if Licorice Pizza or West Side Story are very strong for Best Picture. They could sneak in. So, like, people mentioned Jennifer Hudson, Emilia Jones, Tessa Thompson-Navin. I don't see that happening. I think the four are Zegler, Kidman, then Hudson and Haim. I don't see anybody else potentially getting in, and Hudson's even on the bubble of dropping out. And then obviously Lady Gaga, who I already mentioned. But I don't know. Kidman's right on that bubble group. As of now, my personal predictions, I have her just outside. My personal predictions right now are Kristen Stewart, Jessica Chastain, Olivia Colman, Lady Gaga, Alana Haim. And then I think Nicole Kidman's the number 6 right now. So it's going to be very close. And then Best Picture for Being the Ricardos. I don't know. I really don't. Because the only thing that I think Ricardos, like, I can feel confident about with it is original screenplay. And I can't remember the last time a movie just got into picture off of a screenplay nomination. Like, you usually have to get something else. Like, something. Especially getting in off of screenplay. Like, it would have to, like, Kidman would have to get in. Like, screenplay and actress, maybe. It's definitely fighting for one of those last 2 spots I've talked about before. There's 8 locks for Best Picture. You can watch any of my videos. I'll tell you, there's 8 locks for Best Picture. I don't think I need to repeat them again. Those last 2 spots, I mean, you have things like Don't Look Up, Being the Ricardos, House of Gucci, Nightmare Alley, Drive My Car, Spider-Man No Way Home, Lost Daughter, like, so many different things that are vying for that last spot. I don't think Ricardos is in right now. It's probably in that 11 to 15 range. It needs to be very strong in screenplay, and Nicole Kidman needs to go up to, like, lock status for me to feel comfortable about picking Ricardos for Best Picture to get nominated, because otherwise I think it's just too far outside right now. My personal rating of Being the Ricardos is going to be a 4 out of 10, but I would love to hear what you think of the film in the comments below. But I hope you enjoyed the review, and until next time, stay safe everybody, and goodbye.